You are watching Books, Booze, and Horror Reviews. Welcome to my channel. So, what's going on, people? Thank you so much for stopping in on my channel. So today, we're going to take a look at Portrait of a Nuclear Family by J.P. Behrens. And joining me today is the man himself, J.P. Behrens.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for sitting in with me on this. Good God, I'm like stumbling all over the place.
It's fine. Thank you for indulging me and bringing me on. So that will boost my ego. It's all good.
Awesome. So this is a little new for me. I kind of told you before, I haven't had somebody actually sit in on one of my reviews, so I'm a little tongue-tied, but there is a lot to unpack. Obviously, you saw my little TikTok. I mean, I loved it. I loved your book. It was freaking awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I blasted your TikTok everywhere I could because I was like, everybody loves it.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
anytime someone says something nice about my stuff, I'm like, everybody must see this.
Well, I appreciate that for sure.
Hey,
So,
I appreciate you reading it. So that's awesome.
it was actually my cousin who was really pushing me to read it. She actually specifically she wanted your book for Christmas, so I got it. And yeah, she messaged me. She was like, "Okay, first of all, you need to read this book, and second of all, here's the drink you need to pair it with." Like,
Yeah, I
let's
remember
just,
you mentioning that. I was like, that's pretty awesome.
yeah.
So that drink, it's actually called a taxidermy.
Yes, I don't know where she found it. Like, I need to ask her.
That is wild.
I don't know where she found it, but yeah, it was literally called a taxidermy. And I was just like, this is a taxidermy. I don't know why. Yeah. And so into ripping this book apart.
Go nuts.
So what was crazy is man, you took us for a ride there, man. Like I went into this book and it grabbed my attention right away, right?
Okay.
And as I'm reading, I was, of course, and I imagine that was your intention. Like I seriously felt like I was getting into like this, we need to talk about Kevin sort of story.
The initial idea was, yeah, that was kind of the beginning of it. I don't know if you've heard me talk about like how the whole thing came about, but it started out as just a short story about a sociopathic kid and him doing crazy stuff in the woods. And then it was originally from the POV, the point of view of Nathan. And when I finished it, I realized this is god awful. This doesn't work this way. And so I sat down and was like just staring at it. And I realized, oh, the main character is mom because she's the one kind of uncovering the mystery. So it originally ended on Christmas Eve, Christmas Eve. And then I wrote a sequel to it that was basically the second 2/3 of the book. And then that was very much the aftermath and a lot of what happens in the next 2/3. And then eventually I just kind of combined the whole thing and just turned it into one big book and added in the teachers, best friends, neighbors, all the ancillary characters that kind of like get involved in the story. I started delving into the mental aspects of it and the psychology of it. And for her to like kind of lose it the way she does, there's got to be some underlying stuff in the background. So it just kind of built and built and built until I got to the end, until I got to the book.
And it was so detailed. Like you hopefully must have done like some serious research,
So much.
like research, right? Yes.
Yeah. Google saved my behind on a lot of stuff. And it's shocking some of the stuff I found on Google. Like I didn't think I would find some of the stuff I found and went, okay, apparently that's a thing. So I just was like, great. I answered a question, go off and do the next thing. So it's kind of my Google game has gotten very strong because of this book. I found some weird things. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Ever worry that, somebody would see your freaking search history and,
Yes. Yeah, no, my search history was horrifying. Like if anything ever happened in my area at all, I was done. I was like, yep, I'm a suspect. There's all there's to it. So yeah, no, I'm glad nothing happened ever while I was writing the book. But yeah, it was. If you looked at my search history and you looked at like the sites that I frequented, it did not look good.
I always see that like with horror authors, the types of stuff that they need to research and look up.
Mm-hmm.
It just that's so yeah, I would be constantly paranoid.
Enough, it's a constant conversation. Every time I go to a horror convention, that's one of the things we all bring up is like, what's your search history look like now? And we're like, oh, it's this crazy crap. It's like it's just wild the stuff we'll talk about. Everyone's like, "Yeah, I looked up how to turn a book at a human skin." I'm like, "Hey, I looked that up too." And, it's just we're all like sharing the things we have in common and the wild stuff we're looking up. Yeah.
Especially with how in depth you went, like with the taxidermy and all the stuff she learned. I was like, I didn't even know that there was so much
It's
to it. It's crazy.
oh, I yeah, and in earlier drafts, there's even more about it because there's alternate ways to do it. And I originally had all the ways in the book and her like testing the different stuff, but I realized it was too much, so I pulled a lot of it out. Like you
Okay.
can use bran flakes to
Wow.
tan stuff. And like it's just weird things. And I'm like, and I was just like, all right, well, yeah, but I don't need that scene. So let me yank that out and I can stick to this. And this is crazier than this. So it was just like one of these weird things that you just kind of you find all this nonsense. But the idea of using a creature's brain to taxidermy it was just so twisted that I was just like, it's so insane, but it's like the traditional way. And in an odd sort of like nature thing, every animal roughly has the exact size brain that you need to taxidermy that creature's body.
Wow.
So you don't have to get extra stuff. You can literally use whatever, like if you grab a deer, that deer's brain is almost exactly what you need to tan and preserve its hide. So it just I ran with it and was like, okay, let's go. And then I called a taxidermist. That was a fun conversation, calling a couple of taxidermies offices and trying to ask questions without sounding like a complete psycho. Yeah, like this stuff is what if there isn't a form? Because generally people buy the forms for
Hmm.
the deer, for the bear. You can buy a form for almost anything, apparently. But I was like, yeah, but what if you have something that there's no way you can buy a form for? Can you make one? And the guy was like, well, I mean, what are you trying to taxidermy? I'm like, something that doesn't have a form, man. Just answer the question. And so he gave me a way to do it, and I went, yeah, that seems complicated. And then I came up with the idea of
Wow.
mannequins, and I'm like, that works. And then I ran with it. But yeah, it was an odd
And then they hang up
conversation.
with you and immediately boop, boop, boop.
Yeah, like really, I'm like, oh, dude, I don't want to say this because you're gonna call the cops on me.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm like, just something with no form, man. Just go. Just answer the question.
Oh, the things we do for our art.
There was some pretty tight questions. There were some pretty hairy conversations that happened during that.
Wow. Well, obviously it paid off. I mean,
Yeah, talking to police officers about like how long does it take before they start looking into when kidnapping is this and when do they start suspecting this, and people at cops are like, why are you asking this? I'm like, dude, I'm writing a book. I need this answer.
yeah,
So
that was
yeah,
gonna be my
luckily
next
it went.
question.
Yeah, but it was stuff I went online and then I found out and then I talked to some friends who were lawyers and I got more information and I slowly kind of figured out like if I ask just a little bit of information, I don't set off anybody's detector. So then I can ask just little pieces and then I put it together like a puzzle and then I get my answer.
You read books like that when you know that somebody is a suspect. You know that it really looks like they've done something, but
Yeah.
and usually in the book, you have that tough talking cop who comes and and they're able to, take them in. But this was more realistic. It's something that you have to remember. You can't just arrest somebody because you really, really think they did it.
Yeah, there have been a couple responses to people saying things like this was unrealistic. They would have been at her faster. And I'm like, they really wouldn't.
Mhm.
And a lot of people have kind of like when I've talked to them about it, or other people have mentioned it, they're just like, no, that's not how it works. And I said, yeah, it's not like TV. The reality is it takes a really long time. And it's interesting because with the big boom of true fiction now, more and more people or true crime fiction specifically, are people more and more people are realizing like, oh God, it takes forever for the police to build a case and then actually arrest somebody. It takes months and a year and 2, 3, 5 years before they can actually move.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying. And then so it's just kind of it's a weird thing. So I'm kind of the boom in true crime fiction is definitely helping the believability of the book because people are more attuned to the idea of like the reality is this does take a while.
Well, yeah, even just like, the first thing I thought, like her search history was so obvious, but then I mean, you have a search history like that. Other people,
Yeah.
you can't just, you
I
know,
was really careful about her search history because I tried to make sure that it was only on her phone, and then she just always kind of kept that locked down, but she didn't put anything on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really careful because I was thinking of that. I was like, well,
Yeah.
if they grab the kid's laptop and they grab the mom's laptop, they're going to see this stuff. But if she does it all on the phone and just kind of keeps the phone hidden, she can get away with a little bit more because a warrant requires to ask for a phone. And if
Yeah.
they don't ask for the phone, they can't take it. So it was like little things like that. I was trying to,
Man.
finding little loopholes and trying to just kind of make it so I was like, okay, I know I can get away with a little bit here, and I can push a little bit here and here and get some loopholes and kind of push it forward a little bit more.
Yeah. By the way, I couldn't help but cast Wanda as Elizabeth Olsen in my head because Wanda Maximoff.
That, yeah, I could see that, her losing her mind, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, there's so much to, get into because one of the things, I write little notes as I'm going through the book.
Oh,
And
really cool.
from the very beginning, like I was infuriated just because of, just when you have the typical, something's up with this creepy kid,
Hmm.
and only one person seems to acknowledge it, they're surrounded by gaslighting. Oh, the husband.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was ready to smack somebody, and stuff like that. That's why creepy kid books are usually kind of uncomfortable for me because the gaslighting just it
Oh,
always
yeah.
makes me so mad.
Yeah. And
Uh,
then like, and yeah, I make them really milk toast and gaslighting. And then later on, when you get, and I'm always curious because a couple people have been like, I need to go reread it, and they get a much different take the second time through on Charles. And they're kind of like, their first thing is like, wow, he's gaslighting, he's such a jerk. And then later you read it and they go like, he's actually terrified of her. And he's worried. And now
yeah.
it's like, oh, that reads so much different when you know what's coming. So I
Mm-hmm.
find that, and I was hoping that that was one of my things I really wanted. I personally have a hard time rereading books because once I know the story, I don't really like to go over it again.
Yeah.
So part of my goal with this was to make it so that when you got to the end, if you reread it from the beginning, it has a whole different feel to it. And you start picking up on some of the little things that are throughout the beginning of the book that you're like, some people, like I had an editor think that one of my words I put in was the wrong word. And I said, no, 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 that's an intentional slip on Wanda's part. That was your first point. And yes, it sounds wrong right now, but later on, you're going to go back and go, oh, got it. And
Okay.
so I was trying to make it so, like, for people who do reread books, I wanted to be able to go back through and see all the little foreshadowing, all the little hints that are in the beginning that are being like, oh, God, this is not what I thought it was.
I like
So I tried.
that. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I thought you did a great job of that. And yeah, just the fact that her perception and what was really happening as it gets closer and closer, to the end or more into the book is just so wildly different. Was she always kind of disconnected from reality, or did it sort of happen gradually?
Um, so she definitely has had I don't want to say psychotic breaks in the past, but she's definitely had moments where she's lost control. That's
Mm-hmm.
the whole, like, the what it's referring back to the previous, like, one of those, the dinner through the preludes or the interludes.
Mm-hmm.
It's always talking about this weird thing that happened, and then the first time you hear it, it seems a little normal and like everybody's freaking out on her, and then the second time she relives it, it's she's definitely losing her mind. And then at the very end, when her mom's talking about what happened, it's like, you were completely insane. She's had moments where she's kind of broken with reality, but at the beginning of the book, she's kind of holding her stuff together. It's at the end of the first part when, at Christmas Eve, that definitely that's a moment that just shatters her. Finding the stuff in the woods, kind of losing her temper with Nathan and pushing him against the door. Those things definitely contribute to her finally just fully breaking. It's like I said, it's like I tried to, like, when you get to the end, you go back to the beginning of a reading, you're going like, wait a minute, like something else is happening here. So it's very kind of weird and fluctuates quite a bit. So hopefully that worked out. I was messing around with some stuff and just seeing if I could pull it off, but for the most part, I mean, even then, still people really dug it, which I'm happy about. But yeah, she definitely. But yeah, that at the end of the first third, that's when she breaks.
Yeah.
That's that fugue state when she kind of wakes up and everything has now occurred, and the crime scene is in front of her. That's definitely like she's done now. That is the beginning of the end, and she's just going to drop, and it's just things are going to keep mounting and mounting, and the pressure's going to keep mounting, and her husband's going to set her off, and just things are going to keep breaking as she goes.
And that they did.
Yeah. And
Because
the whole time I'm like, I just kept getting to a section and be like, how can I make this worse? Oh, I know. Type, type, type. And I
yeah,
just kept just trying to twist the knife the whole way through. I was like, I'm never going to let up the tension. I just want to keep just like ripping it even harder and just being like, what can make this worse? This. What can make it worse? This. And just kept going as hard as I could.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when that scene happened, that's when I knew, okay, I'm in for something here because
Yeah.
like I said, I thought, it was gonna be a creepy, demented kid book, and then that happens like, yeah, less than maybe a third of the way in, just like, oh, okay, I was not
Yeah.
expecting that.
That's
So
the end of the first act. And you're like,
I'm just like,
this
there's so
just,
much book left. What's going on?
yeah. You're like, what is going on? Like, everyone thought, I was like, I thought this was the end of the book. And then there's still like 2/3 left. I'm like, yep.
Hmm.
I like doing that. I like bringing a book to a point where that's where it would normally end. And then being like, well, no, there's more story after this. Like, it's a famous Kurt Vonnegut quote was, for every book you read, you're just seeing a portion of the timeline, but that character's life is like this. You're just seeing a little tiny bit. So I kind of want to be like, well, this is the tiny bit of a normal story, but then here's the other part. This is the aftermath. So you get all of it as
Yeah,
much
yeah.
as I could do. And then, and now people are like, sequel. And I'm like, I don't know what to do for a sequel. She goes to jail. I don't know what.
Yeah, like what more can you get from that?
Come up with a cool idea, sure. I was like a never say never thing, but I'm like,
Yeah.
jail, guys. What do you want? I don't know.
But yeah, just that really gradual, I don't want to say gradual because like you said, the break kind of happened, with that scene, but yeah, it was kind of gradual. You could see the break and then just get progressively worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Black Swan?
I've been meaning to, and I can never find the time. And I have 2 kids. So it's one of those movies that I can't watch while my
Yeah.
kids are around. So
I recommend it just because it's kind of the same concept, like somebody who's, who's trying to reach perfection, who's,
yeah,
super rigid and, in their space, I guess. And then, that facade starts to break down and things happen and it gets progressively worse and worse. And there was this image where in the beginning, Natalie Portman would be walking like to her dance, classes, her rehearsal or whatever, and it's following her from the back and you just see her bun just perfectly made up and it's just following her as she's walking. And then toward the end of the movie when she's just losing it, when her mind is breaking, you see her walking, it's that same angle, but it's this really frenzied walk and her bun is like all messy, her hair's all over the place. And that's just the imagery I kept getting with when reading this. You have
yeah,
Wanda, keeping it together, trying to be the perfect wife and mother, trying to have this pristine house. And then there toward the end, she's so unhinged. She's barely holding on, she's snapping at the cops and
yeah.
and
Paper
she's
mache wallpaper.
yeah, exactly. And just you know, just not in touch with reality anymore.
Yeah, no, she's done. It's gone.
Yeah. I think you should check it out. I think you'll know what if you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely a movie that's on the gotta watch list. Unfortunately, I have so many like it just like writers and readers have a TBR pile of books. I got a TBW pile of movies as well. So it's like
Oh,
trying to
gotcha.
balance all of that constantly.
Yeah. But yeah, that's just what I kept seeing, as I was
Oh
reading.
yeah.
That's what kept coming to my mind. Um, Kind of getting off the book for a little bit. This is actually the first book of yours that I've ever read. Do you have other works that
This is the first book. This is my debut novel. I do have
okay.
other short stories. Unfortunately, most of them are currently in anthologies that are out of print. I've sold off like the copies I had, I've sold at shows and stuff like that. I do have a short story that is in Fear Forge, the spring, right? Yeah, spring edition. It was
Okay.
we're Fear Forge Volume 2. It's a book of witches, so I have like a witchcraft story in there, follows a witch hunter. And then I have an upcoming kind of military horror coming out. Actually, I don't know when that's coming out. I know it's happening hopefully near the end of the year, like probably in fall. That's called Contact 2 Blood and Steel. And I got a story in there called Sand and Fire,
Okay.
which is a Crusade era um military horror type story. And then I am currently working on a YA fantasy novel that I'm trying to finish up edits on. I'm working on my little Remarkable 2. I love this thing. It's basically a little tablet that you can
Oh,
write on and
cool.
stuff and do your edits and whatnot. So it's
Yeah,
kind of nice.
that is
And so
nice.
I work on that a lot. When that's done, I'm working on a novella that's a horror novella that it's going to be a detective noir with Lovecraft and Raymond Carver elements to it.
Nice.
So it's going to be weird, and it's hopefully going to be a series. I can turn it into a series if I get the chance. And then for AuthorCon next year, I'm hoping to put together a collection of short fiction. So all the short fiction I've published and a few things that I'm working on right now, I can just kind of throw together in a book, and I'll have a new book ready to sell for AuthorCon next April.
Awesome.
So I've got like projects going on, and I'm hoping to have a self-published collection ready to go for AuthorCon. And then I'm hoping to sell the YA book and kind of get things moving. But yeah, I've got a couple things in the works.
Do you
Yeah,
consider yourself primarily a horror author?
I'm
Would you?
everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the YA fantasy. I've got the novel, the trunk novels and magical realism, literary fiction type thing. The a lot of the short stories are horror, mainly because that's where I got my start. That's the people I knew. Those were the publishers that I knew. So a
Mhm.
lot of that stuff has been going out that way. But now recently I've written a couple short stories that are more, I guess, middle grade and young adult. But then I've got the detective noir that's going to have horror elements, but it's going to be a hard-boiled detective story with H.P. Lovecraft horror elements. And every one of the books in that series would be hard-boiled detective with supernatural elements as well.
So you're going to be at the Scares That Care HorrorCon, or AuthorCon, that's in Virginia.
April in Virginia. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to go to the fourth one as well, or no?
No. That's in the Midwest. I don't know that I could afford it. That, you know what? That's what, yeah. I looked at the driving, like, so I don't, it's weird because, I have to bring a lot of books, and shipping that is expensive. So the drive out to 4 would take something like 14 straight hours. Yeah, I have to pick and choose which ones I go to. And unfortunately, the Midwestern one, 4, it's not practical. I can't guarantee I'd make it. And those tables are going to go so fast. Like the tables for Virginia went in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It was nuts. Like
Ridiculous
nobody
fast.
expected that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was a little shocked. I was like, okay. So yeah, I'll be doing that. I'll be at CT Horror Fest. I'll be at TBR in Tennessee, in Knoxville. And then I've got, I'll be in Connecticut. There's a couple Connecticut shows here and there that I do,
Mhm.
library type things. And then there's horror writers, not horror writers, but I do shows with Horror Writers Association CT chapter as often as I can. And I do shows with the New England Horror Writers all throughout New England as much as I can.
So you keep busy.
I try, yeah. It's like right now, it's like juggling. I got to do interviews. I got to get writing done. It's summer, so my kids are home, so I got swim lessons, doctor's appointments, all
Mhm.
the summer stuff you got to do. My
Yeah.
wife's working as many hours as she can, so make dinner, take care of the kids, be the house husband, and write and do all this other stuff, and then try to get it all managed. It's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, right now it's just if best thing people can do is find me on Facebook. I'm on Threads now. Um, Find me on Instagram. Find me on Goodreads. Go to my website. There's an email there. Keep an eye on the websites and the Facebook and stuff. I try to be good about posting information. I'm not great on my blog yet. I'm working on that, but I'm trying to get better about it. But yeah, I try to post information as often as I can. But if you find me on Facebook, every time I make a blog post, I post it there, post it on Threads. You will know that there's a blog post up.
And you're just under JP Behrens on Facebook?
Yeah, JP Behrens on Facebook, both my personal page and my author page. Website's jpbehrensauthor.com because some rando has jpbehrens.com and won't sell it to me. I'm pretty easy to find, and I try to get back to everybody. Thankfully, I'm not like super famous yet. So when people email me and message me, I'm like, yeah, I got time to talk to you. Sure, why not?
Who knows? Maybe that'll change.
We'll see. Hopefully, I sell the YA thing, and then I'll be, next. I'll be, I'll rock out and have movies and Harry Potter and yay.
And thank
Yeah,
you for the
definitely.
awesome book, man. I could not put it down. It slapped me all over the place. Like
Glad to hear it. Sort of.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear that. Haha.
yes, yeah.
Literary abuse.
Yes, literary abuse. I like that. That's what it was. But yeah, I
Well,
mean,
you know,
I just, it's really not that often when a book can really affect you like that and stay with you, So that's one of the reasons I really, this one stood out to me.
I'm really, yeah, and I'm glad that people are responding to it in a positive way. It's definitely, I have to say, I didn't expect the response, and I don't think I would have the response if it wasn't for Books of Horror Facebook group.
I
Uh,
of
I
horror.
I can't thank those guys enough, and I can't mention them enough because this book would not be selling the way it is without the Books of Horror people, like the group, and the people in the group who are constantly recommending the book to other readers. And as people come in, like, what can I read that does this? Everyone's like, Portrait, read it. So that's wonderful that I'm getting that I get all that support from those people. That's beyond wonderful, and I can't express how much gratitude I have to everybody who supports the book.
It's a solid fan base.
Yeah, and now there's, because of the Books of Horror book brawl, almost every book in the
Yeah.
brawl has has their own book club page. So there's like a Portrait of a Nuclear Family discussion page.
Oh, I didn't
And
know that.
oh yeah, there's like almost every one of the books in the brawl has their own discussion page. And in my page, we're already talking about when the brawl is done, we're going to rename it just to the JP Behrens fan page or something, or JP Behrens books page, whatever. And
Yeah.
we'll just keep it going, and it'll just be now about my other stuff. So we're going to try and keep that running as we go, as long as I keep putting stuff out, hopefully. But
Yes.
yeah, and then I'm trying to do monthly AMAs on YouTube where I'll bring in friends and colleagues and try to interview them and just answer questions. As long as I get an audience coming in there of like, 2 people, I'll keep doing it monthly. Are you going to be at AuthorCon in Virginia?
Oh man, I'm gonna try. I really am because I'm in Texas. So
Okay.
yeah, those things
Are you doing
are,
Texas AuthorCon? Or is that, like, I know Texas is huge, so
yeah, it
I
is.
don't,
I'd planned on it, but I had to cancel due
okay.
to a family emergency. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna definitely go next year. But yeah, I was all ready to go. I had my room booked and everything.
Oh, okay.
Duncan Ralston's gonna be there, and yeah, a bunch
Oh,
of
yeah.
authors that I was super excited about. So I can't make it this year, but I'm definitely, that would have been my first AuthorCon. So I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes open and try to, go to something else. Really try to make it to Scares That Care. I've been, this last year I saw all the posts and all the pictures, and I had like serious FOMO.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I have bad allergies, so I live in Connecticut, up in
Mm-hmm.
the Northeast, and I wasn't expecting the allergies and the pollen to be as bad as it was. So when I got down there, I got wrecked. And like the whole time I was just trying to save my voice for the reading and for the panel. So I was struggling through the first few days, being like, I
Oh
just can't talk.
no.
So on Sunday, I was like, okay, all bets are off. I'm driving home. I'm grabbing people, pulling them to the table, like, buy the book, buy the book. So yeah, I'll be there next year again, and I will have again Portrait. I'll hopefully have the collection, and I also have a lot of rare Arkham House and H.P. Lovecraft old rare books that I sell as well.
Ooh,
So yeah, so if you're into like collectibles and stuff like that, I'll have a lot of that stuff with me
nice.
because that's how I afford the shows.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so definitely come to AuthorCon. It is a blast.
Well, oh man, I will try. I will try my absolute best.
A lot of content. You'll be there just interviewing people left
I
and right.
know, I know. Just yeah, start saving up because yeah, it's getting up
Yeah.
there. That's gonna be the challenge.
You can fly too. You can't
I know I
you
can fly. I would have to fly because
Yeah,
that
I
would
mean, like, you
not
don't have
drive
to
a
bring as
vehicle.
many books or anything. It's like I can fly. I don't have to bring my little suitcase. The
Yeah,
kicker is whether or not you're going to buy a lot of books, because a lot of people end up having to ship home their purchases. And
gotcha.
that's there were a couple people there, like from Canada and from across the country, that were like they stayed an extra day because they had to pack all the books that they bought and ship them home
Oh wow.
because they couldn't take them all on the plane. They were like, I have too much stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was interesting to watch, like people like unload like money on books and then be like, I got to get all these home now.
Hmm.
So that's the only trick of like having to fly is you have to make sure like, am I gonna have to ship home a lot of stuff?
Yeah. So I'll definitely try.
That would
Yeah, I
be
want to go
cool.
really bad. Or if not that one, then I was thinking the next one, the one that they're doing in what was it St. Louis?
I think so.
Yeah, because that one's a little closer to me, but then I haven't seen a lot of response yet. I guess because everybody's still focusing on
On
Fear the
three.
Care 3. Yeah. And plus
Well,
it's
I
like
don't.
within the same year.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know that they even sold tables yet
Yeah.
for for St. Louis. So
Hmm.
I think once the tables are sold and they have an author list of people who are going to be there announcing, "Hey, I'll be there." I think that's when it'll start ticking up. People will be like, "Oh, cool." You
Hmm.
know, that and I think that's when the because everyone kind of knows who's going to be at AuthorCon 3.
Yeah,
It's going to be
exactly.
the same people. Even like I know people who didn't get tables are still showing up.
Yeah.
But four, no one's really sure who's going to be able to get there. So I think once the names start rolling in on who's going to be there, that's when excitement for that will start ticking up.
Yeah. Yeah, because already I know that a lot of my favorites are going to be at, you know, SDC 3, I mean,
If Aaron Borgrog and I know Aaron and Volpe are both going to be at AuthorCon 3.
yeah.
They'll be at Scares because I know they got a table together.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like honestly, they're always together. So
Yeah.
they even like sitting when they have separate tables, they're next to each other.
Yeah,
So
exactly. So yeah, I'd like to do
I
them
know they're
both
both going
and
to
then
be
yeah.
they'll be there.
Yeah, and then yeah, whenever I saw the list for that, I was just like, "Oh my God, I want to go so bad." But yeah, so hopefully there'll be, kind of a similar guest list for the fourth one, but if I can't make it to SDC 3, but
Just make it to 3. Just come to 3.
I know
I
that's
won't be at 4. You got to come to 3.
okay, okay, fine. No, I really do want to go to SDC 3. Again, thank you so much for, sitting and chilling with me for a while
No, of
and
course.
talking
I
about the awesome book.
anything and I try to answer as many questions about the book and anything. Yeah, if you ever come up with any more questions, let me know, and I'm more than happy to talk about it and go over it and everything.
Sure.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.